when you are trying to do a character, you really want it to be a good character that's not limited by, you know, oh, he has to fit into this role. Like sometimes I'll draw characters and I'll do a ton of sketches, and you know, some of them are black, some of them are Asian, and I don't have it. You know, have them pinned down and say, oh, this is really working with this look. I am Joe Phillips, comic artist, illustrator, animator, and BentCon, my friend Sean puts it on and invited me out here. It's my second time coming, so enjoy it.
Awesome. So we had a panel discussion today about race and comic books. What do you, if you had one critique to give to mainstream comics right now, what would you say to them?
Don't be afraid of the public. They can accept all kinds of stuff, you know. So different races, mixed races. The world is full of different types of people, and I think that diversity shows that the world is like not narrow even in the scope of, you know, what they're trying to do of these heroes, and so they can be from anywhere. So I think they should just be a little less fearful.
And what do you think is the biggest improvement in comic books as far as portrayal of race since you were a little kid?
I think generationally, as the new writers and artists, you know, have grown up, they've seen more diverse movies and television shows and things like the Cosby Show, and you know, different people, comedians and things like that. That influences them. So when they create characters now and they bring their stories in, you know, they don't come from the 50s, they don't come from the 60s, they don't come, you know, they start bringing in, you know, things from the 80s and the 90s and stuff like that. And I think that diversity becomes a part of what they grew up with, and I think that they can reflect that way better than somebody who, you know, grew up in a very narrow bandwidth of what they were allowed to see, so they can't reflect it. And it's not that I don't think that they're intentionally, you know, writing white characters or whatever, but if that's all they ever saw, their mind's not going to go, oh, well, let me come up with a black character, or let me come up with a woman character, or, you know, or whatever, you know. I mean, so I think that generationally it's being you know, integrated more and more into having different types of people. Yeah. Remember Milestone Comics when they had all the black characters, and they had asked me to do a book, and I said yeah, sure, whatever, and but then it was so single focused that I wanted John Dell to ink me. John Dell's white, and they were like, well, can we get this guy? And I said, well, that guy doesn't really ink me very well. I said, well, we're trying to do this thing, and I'm like, okay, now you're making a niche product for you know, and you're not making the best product. So now the character's got to be black, the story's got to be written by a black guy, drawn by a black guy, inked by a black guy, colored by black people. It's like, what, you know, it's not about the character at that point. Now it's just about an agenda that you're trying to create, and I think, you know, those kind of limitations build in animosity amongst the creators in not a conscious way, but sort of like, well, you're really not that good, but you're the only one who can do this, so you know, let's let that happen. And I think the characters suffer from it. I think the books suffer from it.
And behind the scenes, do you think there's a greater diversity in the artists and writers now?
Yeah, I think so. I think the stuff that I mean, it sort of comes back and forth, because the stuff that inspires, you know, those same writers, you know, and artists, I think that brings a new vision to the comic books. And I think, you know, so you have, you know, more different types of artists instead of just like, you know, one race of artists. You have black artists and Asian artists and things like that. So they definitely bring, you know, adding extra characters, even if it's just background characters. That, you know, they still add, you know, something to it. So it's not just when you look at the page, you know, it's not all just one, you know, one shade of brown, one shade of white, you know, that kind of a thing.
And what originally attracted you towards comics?
I liked to read when I was a kid, and I like art, and it was a combination of the two, is reading and art. You know, it's like, oh, I got to be a part of that. And I grew up with the Sunday Funnies, you know, and getting comic books from, you know, they used to be in like the little dime store, the 7-Eleven on the corner, and they cost 10 cents or 25 cents, so, you know, I could actually afford them. I mean, now they're like $2-3, and but, you know, when I was a kid, that's how much they were. So I could, you know, you could take $1 and you can come home with 10 comic books, and, you know, you could read that, you know, for a month, or, you know, and when the next comic came out, you're right there.
And real quick, tell us about this outfit.
This?
Who are you today?
I'm just sort of a little steampunk gentleman. I'm working on I'm working out the ideas of a character. I always love the steampunk stuff because you get to dress up. I love the Victorian sensibility. We also love the idea of that sort of the punk aspect of mixing and matching and making your own things. And so like you make your own your own badges and you make your own gadgetry and things like that to facilitate. And so I saw people wearing that garb, and I started buying little pieces, and I finally got the courage up to make my own character.
A superhero that would bring about marriage equality to repeal Prop 8.
Superman. Yeah, I mean he's the symbol. He's the big guy. I mean why go to anybody else? Because I mean Superman shows that when the white establishment character says enough is enough, people will listen. And I think that's, everybody else, they have, I said they have a lesser argument. I think it's a great argument. But when they see Superman say something like that, I mean, it's Superman. And I'll be drawing him, and I was like, and consciously I say, I'm like going, who's a cool black character to add to this group? So I just did the Justice League, and I said, well, I can do, Mr. Terrific, because I did Cyborg, and he looked. It's just like, but you have to and so there is some of that. He's like, oh well, I can get a green guy and I can get a blue guy, but where's the black guy or a brown guy?